Welcome to the Mind Shift podcast. Join Rocio Perez, your mental performance strategist, as she navigates you through inspiring journeys with global experts. Explore breakthrough insights and awaken the potential within you wherever you are in life. Get ready to transform your personal growth. Here's Rocio to guide you.
Record. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited about today's guest here. A person who's been in entrepreneurship, he's been in corporate, he's been a business owner, public service, higher education. And without further ado, I want him to share his journey. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kevin Logan.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. It's always a pleasure for you and I to get together and dialogue.
Yes, indeed. Now, you were just on our TV show and you shared a lot of golden nuggets with individuals about entrepreneurship, about resilience, mindset, burnout, a number of things. And in this particular interview, tell us how your identity as a leader has evolved from being in corporate and the business settings, entrepreneurship, higher education, everything that you've done to mentoring students in entrepreneurship and what the inner shift that was required for you to make that transition. Because I think a lot of us jump into things and we don't think that there has to be a transition into what we're doing.
The word that comes to me is confidence. We have to have confidence in ourselves, and I recognize some people struggle with that. I did as well, especially in certain environments. However, this takes me back to having and planting things, a plant, a seed. It's put beneath the ground in the dark by itself. And it's just kind of there. And then all of a sudden this soil, comes around it and does what it does to make it grow. And then it pushes up through the ground. And then it sprouts whatever it is that it's meant to sprout. And so having that confidence to know that, in these dark, mucky, cold, lonely
Mhm.
places, we're still that seed to the world. And knowing that, okay, I may have to sit here for a little bit for things to take place and for the biology and the science all to come together. But I am going to push through.
Mhm.
And I am going little by little. And what we see on
I love
top
that.
is only a small segment of what's below.
Wow. Well, I think that's so powerful that you mention it, right? It is those moments that we are by ourselves, like that seed in the darkness and the mud and whatever it is. And then there's the point of perturbation, as you're talking about, where the seed grows, it pierces the soil, that moment of perturbation,
Yes.
that stress, that once you go through the stress, you grow through the stress.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people at times they don't think that we're supposed to be stressed. Yes,
Mm,
of course. Stress is part of success and it's part of growth because it means that I haven't been here before. And now that I
yes.
am, I'm growing.
I could not agree more. If you look at those two words, stress and success, they both start with the same letter and end with the
Mm,
same letters.
interesting. I had not thought about that. Wow. Okay, that's great that you bring that into it. And speaking of the next question, when we're talking about those moments of chaos, right? To compared to structure, entrepreneurship can feel very chaotic in many moments. How do
Mhm.
you teach students to create their own systems, routines, accountability when no one is enforcing them? It's not like a boss is knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, where's that project?" Now you're on your own. How do you create that structure?
Do it clumsy.
Do it clumsy. Okay, I love it.
Clumsy. Yeah. And when I say do it clumsy, do it anyway when it's not typed or written out perfectly. But that means is you still have to write it out. I don't always type things up. I still like to write things out. I
Hmm.
like to erase. I like
I
to
love that.
scratch
I've
through.
got my notes.
Exactly. Yes. I love writing things out because I believe things that we get are given to us on purpose and it's not a mistake. So the fact that we wrote a word and then changed it, that does not negate that the word we previously wrote is not a word. It was there.
Mhm.
We just evolved to the point where, oh, I have a better word. But I like going back to that crossed out word, a word that I don't use and say, what made me write this?
Mm.
What's the power behind what I wrote? And so
Mhm.
when I say clumsy, I say that with all due respect. If we think about, the first steps of an infant, that
Mhm.
they're clumsy, they're
Indeed.
wobbling, they'll fall down, but they get back up.
They learn from what they did, and then later on, they're springing up out of nowhere.
Exactly. Yes. So do it clumsy, but write it down. Don't worry about, one of the things is getting in our heads. We want to present things to the world so precise and clean and crisp and clear. And we should want that, of our product and our service. However, our internal meeting with ourselves, do it clumsy. Do it, write it out, scratch it out. This makes no sense. Put your date beside it. Put on it. This makes no sense. Come up with your own system. And along with that, we have to sit with that. We
Mhm.
can't just write it, go on to the next day. And then before we know it, we're 6 months into the year. We have to go back to everything that we've written to see what we want to take out of that and what we're going to make of it. Because the one thing I have a rule for myself, I never erase and I never delete. I continue
Mhm.
to write in it anyway. I want to see what did not make sense to me, but one day will be a solution for someone else.
Wow, that's so powerful when you think about that. Hand to paper. I'm always talking with people. Hand to paper. If you know anything, write it down, take a look at it. I love the fact that it doesn't have to be perfect because too many of us are waiting for perfect, missing the boat. Like the boat, the ship has sailed, the airplane has landed on the other end, and we're still over here figuring out, is this the right thing? I call it in my book, Unstoppable, the testing, tracking, tweaking approach. Test it. If it doesn't work, learn from it, track it, figure out what's happening, tweak it, go ahead and adjust it. So it's like a child, right? When they got up off the ground, they're like, oh, that didn't work. It took so many times that didn't work. And all of a sudden, they're walking, they're running, they're sprinting. Life is different.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful. In your experience, what mindset makes the difference when you notice between leaders who succeed long term and those who burned out early? And how can students develop the former?
Mindset is an interesting one. Individuals like to believe that they have a growth mindset over fixed. I'm going to go back to the plants for a moment because
Mhm.
in my household, there are plants, and plants get repotted and repositioned. Although a plant is a plant, the growth mindset says, okay, I need to uproot you from your area of comfortability. And then I need to put you in something bigger where maybe you're not touching the walls or you're a lot smaller. You don't take up as much space. And I also need to move you from one room to another.
Mm.
That's growth. It's not just the plant itself growing, but we will only grow to the size of the environment in which we are planted into. And
Mm.
so we need to have individuals who will replant us, put us in these different places, put us in these uncomfortable spaces so that we can evolve into what we're supposed to be. Yes, we're great at what we do. Oh, we'll leave them there. They'll stay there for, 20, 30 years. But what
Mm.
could they have become? And
Mm.
sadly, a lot of times we won't know because, and this is not going to be a popular statement, the selfishness that individuals have because of the good that they receive from someone stops us from missing them. And that goes back to a conversation we had
Mm.
earlier when we allow, in our absence, we allow someone else to grow and to evolve. And so that mindset of having a growth mindset, really tearing apart those letters, GROWTH, and figuring out what does that really mean.
Mhm. That's powerful. I love that you brought it back to the plants. And I remember being in DC last May and watching how the sidewalk was built. And it was structured. There was trees that were dying essentially to get out. Their roots were coming out, but yet they will only grow to the degree where they're at. Just like a fish. You take a fish from a fishbowl, put it in a tank, it's going to continue to go in that same circle until it gets out of its comfort zone to be what it was meant to be. Now, as you walk us through, how would you help students move from fear based decision making? Because I know we've all been there. There's moments that we're fear into a mission driven leadership, especially when money, pressure, and expectations are involved.
Mhm. Do it scared. You
Mm,
know, that little bit of nervousness in our stomach brings about the caution, the right amount of caution that we need to do. If we're doing it, overly confident, where are the barriers? Am I regarding the guardrails? Am I regarding the different signs that are in front of me? But when I do it scared, I'm doing it with a degree of caution that I need to take. I'm considerate of other individuals as well.
mhm,
In traffic, individuals will say, will let people over, some will, some won't. Um, but when you get into different group dynamics, you'll see sometimes the courteousness that's extended, even to the opposition.
mhm,
And so we've practiced this day in and day out. We know what we're going to do, or supposedly, and we've done it before. But this is a new day. This is a new place. This is a new time, a new elevation. Yeah, I've got everyone with me. But how is this going to work out?
mhm,
What have they done that I'm not aware of?
mhm,
So I love doing it with that fear. I think there's several acronyms out there that individuals use for fear, but false evidence appearing real. And if you really think about it, it starts off wrong. False evidence. Well,
mhm,
evidence is not supposed to be false.
mhm,
And then it appears real. So it's like a shadow. A
mhm,
shadow, if you think about a shadow, the shadow is always bigger than the element in which it's cast off of.
mhm. Wow.
Takes up more
Wow.
space.
That is so true. And I love that you said that. It is false evidence appearing real, which is one of the concepts that we share with people as they're going through their mindset, figuring things out. Is it something from the past? Is it something from the present? Is it something that's holding you back? And if it appears real, are you present in the reality of what's actually going on,
Yeah.
as opposed to bringing the fear from the past into the present moment? They say that the past is never recreating the future. I believe that the past creates the future. That not only the present, but the past, right? Because if I have that mindset and I'm afraid and things aren't going well, then guess what I'm going to get?
Yeah.
And if I have the positivity, guess what I'm going to get? I remember walking through Community College of Denver back in the day, which is where I went to school. I have my associates, two associates from there. And I remember that sign by Henry Ford on a wall: if you think you can and you think you can't, you're both right. That has stuck with me for, gosh, I like to say like 33 years of my life. Many years of my life. So I love it. As we continue to move forward, looking at today's generation of entrepreneurs, what leadership skills do you believe are the most underdeveloped, and how can students intentionally train themselves to lead with both strength and integrity?
I think communication. There are so many ways that we communicate today, and younger generations communicate a little bit differently. And communication needs to be respected through all of our generations. A very quick story. We took a vehicle in to get serviced, and we picked it up on a Saturday, and so the dealership wasn't full at all. I came in, I said, "Hey, Kevin Logan here to pick up the vehicle," and the person said, "Okay, not a problem." And they were the counter. I couldn't see what their hands were doing, but it just kind of looked like they were sitting there. And so after awkward seconds, it probably was not a minute. It was maybe 30, 45 seconds. The awkward silence. The individual said, Mr. Logan, your vehicle's on its way up. He said that the person that brings it up has a disability in their hearing. And so they prefer that we communicate via text to
Mm,
them. That way, they won't misinterpret anything or miss anything.
wow.
Exactly. I sat there and said, I very well could have taken and communicated the gentleman that was there doing nothing as you're doing nothing. I'm here to pick my car up. I gotta go, this, that, and the other. And I
Hmm.
was not
Hmm.
in a rush by any stretch of imagination. I could have taken that as, well, he's not communicating with me. Yet he communicated with what I needed to serve me, and then
Hmm.
communicated with me how he communicated with that other individual.
And what a difference does that make when we get into somebody else's shoes, right? This is not just the person in front of you. This is a third person who, this is the way that they communicate best. And when you take that moment, I always say to Rocio, be quiet for a moment, okay? Wait at
Now,
least 30 to 60 seconds and then say something
it
thoughtfully.
it's interesting to do that, and what our facial expressions communicate, what our body language communicates. So communicate the confidence that we spoke about.
Mhm.
Communicate the assurity. Communicate all those things, whether it's written, whether it's verbal, whether it's a smile.
Mhm.
All of those things are communication. And sometimes we don't have to be present to communicate. Sometimes we can communicate beforehand. We can show up
Mhm.
beforehand and we can be gone and the communication still exists. A note, a post-it note is a great communication because it's so small. You could either write a whole paragraph on it if your handwriting is very small and you do
Mhm.
it, or you can just take advantage of that real estate that that square gives you and write the words thank you.
Mhm.
It's so many different, and it forces you to think, well, I want to say all of this, but it forces us down to say, no, let
Mhm.
me get crystal clear and concise
Mhm.
on what I'm going to say. And that's it.
That that is powerful. I'm going to ask you the last question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Mm, don't give up. It's going to get better. I know it doesn't look the way you want it to now, but there is a reward that you can't even imagine waiting for you.
Mm, I felt that.
Yeah, you dug deep in that one a little bit. Yeah. There's a question in coaching, and that you just that was it, what would you tell? And sometimes the specific question is, what would you tell your 12-year-old self? What would you tell your 15-year-old self? And it's to make the individual go to that time in their life, whether it was really good or there's some struggles. But as we said earlier, the fact that we're still here and have a presence, we received the present.
Let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
What would you tell your grandchildren's grandchildren as your legacy?
Oh my gosh. That's interesting. I've been working on that. Here are some examples of what's been done. Use them to create your uniqueness to the world. I don't believe we always have to follow everything identically. If that were the case, we would still have, and then some populations do have the horse and buggies, which I love. I live not too far from a population like that. But at some point, we do have to integrate with innovation and society on the level because certain things are no longer there. And so if we use, if I could leave part of my legacy as part of their foundation, then they create the rest of their foundation and build their structure on it.
Mm,
Because my structure may be made out of elements that are no longer available to us. My structure
mhm.
may be made out of elements that were once harmful. Well, they weren't harmful at the time, but they become maybe harmful to society, to our community. And so, if you can utilize that as an example, um, and I'm purposely not saying a template or a model, use it as an example to create your own, then your
Mm.
molded model will be a legacy that you can leave for the next generation that's coming.
Powerful, powerful. I love it. Thank you, Dr. Logan, for being here. Your insights are gold. I'm really excited for people to listen to them.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you always.
Mhm. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, please join us on our school platform, YouTube, podcast channel. We have a lot of different platforms. Come in, create your version of a happy, healthy, successful, exciting life. And you know exactly what it is for you. Join us. Until the next time.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mindshift podcast. Rocio hopes you've been inspired and gained insights to fuel your journey of personal growth. Remember to subscribe and share this episode with friends who are also exploring their potential. Leave us a review to help spread the message. Rocio says, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring your potential with us. Until next time, goodbye.